time, we're going to call the alderman of this ward. The alderman of this ward, David Moore.
Let me get your card. Your card.
Give it to you.
The card.
You know our alderman in this ward.
Okay.
Thank you so much, District Council. I appreciate you all. To my colleagues in the City Council, Chairman of Black Caucus, Chairman Stephanie Coleman, and to Raymond Lopez, my mother's seatmate, 15, 16, and 17, down in City Council. To my brother Anthony Driver, for the work that you do. I truly appreciate you, man, and everything that you do. Let me first start by saying, one thing you all hear me do, welcome to the 17th Ward. And it's not a 17th Ward initiative, this is an Englewood initiative, but right now we're sitting at 17th Ward. So I want to welcome everybody to the 17th Ward, and my colleague, Will Hall, Alderman William Hall just walked in. Have a seat, man. You know, be like Jesus, man.
Somebody got it.
Yeah, I know you're right. Love you, brother, thanks for coming. And so, one of the things that we do in the 17th Ward, you hear me say we inform, educate, and empower. So I want you, first of all, to get informed, get educated so that you can be empowered to help make a, give your input on this. I am disturbed, though, and it's more from the state's attorney's office than anything. I think our police are looking for ways to do great work, and that's important. But we're going to always be supportive of them, and I definitely know I am. But I do wish that the state's attorney's office would have collaborated not only with the alderman, but definitely this elected body here, because they're the liaison between that's why they were elected. They're the liaison between the community and their partnership with CPD. As we're doing good, and I believe we've been doing excellent here in Englewood, working together with our police officers. And I hate when something comes in to disturb that, because we've been rocking here in Englewood. And so I think that disturbed a little bit because it's a lack of communication from the state's attorney's office. I understand. I hope she had an emergency. She probably did, but sometimes you got to counsel some things to be at important meetings. That's why I flew in back from D.C. this morning, one-day trip. I had a very important something to do. I was supposed to stay there the Sunday, but this was important for me to do. And so you have to make sure you do that. And I wish she was here today, because it was something, I believe, of her brainchild that she rolled out from her office. If I'm wrong, then correct me. But we've been working a great deal with CPD. We want to continue to do that. But I think this is something sometimes you upset community when you inform them on the back end instead of on the front end. And sometimes it's hard to get them back from that standpoint. So thank you all so much. And as Alderman of the Ward, I'll call up the next alderman. We'll go in seniority or order. Alderman Brandon Lopez.
Give it up for our 17th Ward Alderman. Thank you for being here. And thank you to the district counselors here in 7 who do a great job. It's always a pleasure to hear two of the 15th Ward's finest, by the way.
Yes.
Representing us. 46 charges. And as we have this discussion about this pilot, I want to also put things in perspective, because that also means at least 46 victims, 46 families that were impacted by gun violence, by someone who should never have had a gun to begin with. So as we talk about the nature of whether or not this pilot should have been brought here, the engagement that did or did not happen, we cannot forget the victims of gun violence in our communities. 3 months, 46 people that were just eligible for this pilot, not to mention the ones that were not. So keep them and and their families in your prayers and top of mind as we have this conversation. But as I'm sitting here, I think that we have to temper down the rhetoric a little bit. Because sometimes folks get lost in the incorrect or inconsistent information about pilot programs. And that works people into a frenzy, as though there's something nefarious going on. But we've had pilots in our communities before. We've led the city with pilots time and time again. And one of the most notable pilots that I can think of was ShotSpotter, which started right here in the 7th District and became a model for the entire city. So much so that my colleague here fought for it. And though some might find it hilarious, it saved lives. It brought safety to communities. And that is what all of these pilots are designed to hopefully do, to bring safety, security, and peace to our neighborhoods that oftentimes get none of that. Restorative justice was a pilot. Don't forget that. And look how that has been working. We've heard it advocated today. Another pilot. The Veterans Court was a pilot to divert veterans from having to go through, especially when they've been dealing with self-medication and other issues in our neighborhoods. Even some of the diversionary programs that are out there all started as pilots. Some of our best successes in our neighborhoods have to start somewhere. A pilot is a way to see what works, what doesn't, make tweaks, make adjustments. Were there issues with this rollout? Absolutely. Should they have consulted our community on the front end? Absolutely. Should she be here today? Absolutely. I'll say it, Eileen O'Neill Burke should be here today to discuss this. If she can impact us, she can explain it. That's what she gets elected to do. But I'm not wanting us to get lost in that moment, because pilots can have results that are good. And I think that, as the commander said, if you are following constitutional policing, and by the way, our first deputy is here, Yolanda Talley, of our police district. Forgive me. But if you believe that he, and the entire district is gravitating towards constitutional policing in the way that we all want it, then you have to trust them in this moment when you have, as the commander said, 3 rules for this to work, and they're following all the rules. And at some point, you have to say, great work, thank you for doing it the right way for our communities. And that's what cannot be lost in this conversation today. And as we hear from the state's attorney's office and hear from community about the impact of what this was that started here without us, let's see if this is something that we can tweak to make sure it continues, if it is actually delivering. Because I'm curious to know and hear what happened to those 46 individuals who had unlawful possession of a weapon and impacted 46 families in the greater Englewood community. Thank you.
I want to thank Alderman Lopez, he's my alderman, 15th Ward. I now want to call up aldermen of the 16th Ward, Stephanie Coleman. Let's do a round of applause, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I am the proud alderman of the 16th Ward, happy to be here in the 17th Ward, the other greatest ward, accompanied with the other greatest ward in the 6th Ward. Listen, thank you everyone who's here. Thank you to one of the best district councils here in the city of Chicago, President Driver, the first African-American woman to ever hold the first deputy superintendent position, and that is, we appreciate you, Deputy Talley. In the 16th Ward, we have a monthly community meeting every second Saturday of the month. You know where to find us, at the old Jewel Osco. Commander Court's team does a Herculean job of presenting the numbers of where we are for that month. And either the numbers aren't numbering, but Cecile, our gun possessions and our numbers have been much lower than historically in the past. We've had wonderful leadership with Commander Johnson, Commander Rod, Commander, now Superintendent Larry Snelling, and of course Commander Courts. And I think we share in the same sentiments that when the initiative of the first 30 days in a new position, such as the state's attorney's office, if the 7th district is targeted, certainly we must be inclusive of whatever this process is. This is why we have a community commission for public safety and accountability. This is why we have 3 representatives that we elected for this position. This is why we have one of the best commanders, Louis Courts. And I also find it hard to believe, and Alderman Lopez, we share the 9th district, but the 9th district numbers look a little bit worse than the 7th district numbers, if I do say so myself, when it's reported in the 16th Ward community meeting. So I hope that this is a teachable moment for State's Attorney Burke's office. We will gladly welcome her to the 6th, 16th, 17th, or 20th, 15th Ward. Any day. Come on over to Englewood, don't be afraid, we're here. We have teeth, but we don't bite too hard. But we want the inclusiveness, we want community, as you can see, when the clarion call is made, that our community responses. So thank you all so much for spearheading this, Councilmember Williams, to all of you, Teresa and McGill. And thank you, Englewood, for showing excellence. I even see we have some visitors from other districts. Do we have any other? Thank you so much for being here with us. To our other district council members. All right, God bless you all, and I'm going to bring forward 6th Ward Alderman Pastor William Hall.
One more time, this is Sober. She's a chairwoman of the Black Caucus, you all, none other than Stephanie Coleman. David Moore and I, we have an affinity. I give him a hall pass to come to the 6th Ward. And so he didn't give me a hall pass to come here. It was none other than this great council who's doing a great job. Public service looks easy, but it's really hard. And these great men and women do a great job keeping us together. So could you clap it up for the district council as well? Come on, y'all, show me some love. This is Saturday. Yeah. And last but not least, every shield that you see is a shield that is centered on serving and protecting. And Commander Courts and First Deputy is just a sliver of the example of the great officers that cover the 7th District, the 6th Ward, and all throughout. And so can we show our love for our officers, you all? They're really some good brothers. And so in concluding, as I was just asking Anthony, what do you see? And what this moment, I believe, gives us an opportunity is to see to a future, number one, where there shouldn't be guns on the street, period. Until we can stop having access to guns illegally, then the work continues. And so to hear perspective is one thing, but to ignore a problem is another thing. And so this is both an opportunity to learn, but an opportunity to draw a line as well. And as Alderman Moore has said, if it's important, you make time for it. And I believe that a leader should have made time for this moment to be held accountable with a pilot that will affect you and I. And so today I'm here to listen even in her absence. And I hope that we draw a line that is fair for us, but keeps it safe for all of us. God bless y'all, and I appreciate you.
All right. Okay, at this time and at this moment, we're gonna ask that Ms. Dion Victoria come up. Community residents of the Englewood, it is known as the last time this happened. Hold it up.
Hey everybody, how y'all doing? Show of fingers. I like to get a read of the room, how everybody's feeling. 1, I feel awful. 5, I feel amazing. How we feeling? Amazing. Okay, good. Yes. Thank y'all. So I am Dion Victoria, the artist, educator, and entrepreneur from this beautiful neighborhood, living here currently. Today I want to talk to you guys about something really important. How the police and courts handle people who are caught with illegal guns and what played out a long time ago when something similar happened with drugs. In Englewood, a new rule started this year. It lets police officers charge people with gun crimes without asking permission from the lawyers who usually check first.
Wow.
In just 3 months, the police filed 46 gun cases all by themselves. Now let's go back in time.
Mm-hmm.
Paint the picture.
In 1971, a president named Richard Nixon started what he called a war on drugs. That meant the police got more power to arrest people for using or selling drugs. Also, between 1969 and 1972, the government gave money to build more jails. From $2 million, it increased to $250 million. That is a huge increase. By 2015, there were 1.3 million arrests in 1 year for drug possession. That's one arrest every 25 seconds.
My God.
And even though Black people only made up 13% of the US population, they made up 30% of drug arrests and 40% of the people in jail for drug crimes. It's just not fair. Now, people are worried that if police are allowed to charge gun crimes without someone double checking their work, the same problems could happen again. More arrests and possibly sending people to jail even when the evidence isn't strong enough.
Wow.
Too many people in jail, making the prisons crowded and very expensive to run. Unfair treatment, especially for Black and brown people who already face more arrests. Less trust between people and the police if we feel the system isn't fair. So while the idea might be to help the police work faster, we have to be careful. History shows us that when we rush, we can make big mistakes that hurts a lot of people. That's why it's super important to watch what happens next and make sure things stay fair for everyone. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you for teaching. Thank you for teaching.
Thank you so much for that. This is the last time this happened. Well said. Now we'll have remarks and a presentation by Teamwork Englewood. Mrs. Cecile. Let's give her a round of applause.
All right now.
And good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My name is Cecile DeMello. I'm the Executive Director of Teamwork Englewood. Teamwork Englewood is a community-based organization, serves Greater Englewood with different services as well as community planning. We also have a monthly meeting that discusses public safety. Teamwork Englewood also hires from within the Greater Englewood community. We have a significant of Black men that work at Teamwork Englewood that lived, born, and raised in Greater Englewood and was also impacted by the criminal justice system. I'm going to be sharing some of their words and what I'm sharing today as well. I also want to say something that I think is important. The rhetoric around policing and criminal activity sometimes goes, oh, we all want the same thing, but I want to be very clear. I live in Englewood. I work on 63rd and Halston, take Halston down to my house. My home experiences gunfire regularly, and I'm not here saying that we should be doing over-policing strategies, although I really want to save community because I raised my family here. In addition, violence reduction, as Alderwoman Coleman shared, has been showing some progress, and that is because Englewood is very collaborative. We have created spaces for convening, problem solving, and research, data collection and review, and the implementation of programming where we see it necessary. And we've worked with commander courts and elected officials here and aldermen around this strategy. And this is part of why this is problematic for us, right? We do things, again, in collaboration, looking at data and uplifting community wisdom. The recent decision to bypass the felony review for certain gun possession charges is along the line of the federal rhetoric around law and order. And as we know, this impacts Black communities, it will impact Englewood, it will impact Black men. Residents of Greater Englewood kind of see through this strategy, and that's why we have this space today, and I'm thankful for District Council to have this, because we've seen this playbook before, as Sister Dion shared, and the expanded police power and reduced oversight, again, has a disproportionate impact on Black men specifically. This feels like racial targeting, it feels like reduced accountability. And the weight of the system, the criminal court system as well, is another impact that we have to look through. And this is why I love Brother Dion's point about the Restorative Justice Court. People lose their jobs when they're sitting, right? People lose employment, lose stability in their family, and we've seen this in Teamwork Englewood's reentry work, which is why we are a proponent of making sure we do things that doesn't have people in the criminal court system, especially when there wasn't a victim. We cannot. In addition to the clogging of the court system, sometimes with questionable cases, we don't have a lot of legal representation here in Greater Englewood, which is why legal clinics not in this community are problematic, and we have to continue to support with resources for legal clinics like the work we do at Teamwork Englewood. We created a legal clinic because there's not enough legal resources or representation for residents to have when they are over-policed. But the last of my comments are going to be focused on the Restorative Justice Court, because this is an important part of the timeline of how we got to today's point. Earlier this year, in addition to the pilot being brought up, the Restorative Justice Court has extreme success with gun cases. Extreme success with gun cases. The recidivism rate for those who go through the Restorative Justice Court system here in Greater Englewood is 13%. And the criminal court system is 65%. I brought the report if people want to review it. So when we see program that is proactive, that brings resources like case management, two of Teamwork Englewood's team members, Mark Mitchell, our Associate Director of Reentry Services, as well as Michael Tidmore, who does court work with Marlo, I see you in the back. This court, although a pilot, Alderman Lopez, was also co-developed with community for years. Co-developed with community for years, with partners at the table, building the case management, the referral services, and the mentoring and coaching. This is why it's effective. So when gun cases were no longer allowed to come to the Restorative Justice Court because of the state attorney policy, this is part of the problematic part that we come to at this point. This is where things feel intentional. This is where we feel community wisdom is not being supported and best practice is not being utilized. So my closing point about best practices is the community engagement work, community participation, and co-design that allows us to do good public safety and violence prevention work. This is the way we have to do work in Englewood, and if it isn't done, co-design with the people at the table, the data, the community wisdom, and the promising best practices like Restorative Justice Court, then we can't have it. My point again to the Restorative Justice Court, in addition to the call out that this needs to be repealed, we also need gun cases back in the Restorative Justice Courts, where we have been changing lives and effectively having people move away from gun possession to changing and improving their lives. Thank you.
Before we continue, anyone else who have questions, I want you guys, Rosa, where's your hand?
Rosa, can you come over here so they can see you?
Tongue twisted. Raise your hand. Please give your questions over to Rosa, and then that'll be our next portion as part of the public comments. With that being said, I'm going to turn it back over to our chair.
Thank you, Councilman. So at this time, we're going to have remarks by Yvette Lozon. She's the Chief of Policy for the Cook County State's Attorney's Office. Let's give her an applause as she comes. Thank you. Let's hear for that powerful presentation as well.
Thank you. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Yvette Loizon. I am the Chief of Policy for the Cook County State's Attorney's Office. I know everybody wants to see Eileen O'Neill Burke here today. Unfortunately, you got the B team, but I will do my best. So, first of all, I want to say thank you to the district counselors for including the state's attorney's office in this event. I'm happy to be here. I hope as time goes on that you all will invite us back. It's been good education for me as I sat here for the first part of this, to hear from all of the different groups in Englewood. And I'm happy to see how committed you all are to collaboration. We are committed to collaborating too. So I think I'm just gonna kind of start at the beginning and talk a little bit about the felony review process. So in Cook County, we have the felony review system, which gives assistant state's attorneys an opportunity to review felony cases that are called in by law enforcement. That's not just the Chicago Police Department, it's law enforcement all over Cook County. Cases that come through felony review, it's not a one-size-fits-all event. Cases that come through are prioritized in different ways. So for example, when the Chicago Police Department comes in with their homicide detectives, because they have put together a homicide case, and they call felony review, and they say, we have a homicide, we have victims here, we have witnesses here, we have cameras, we have an offender in custody. That prompts the Cook County Felony Review Unit to send an assistant state's attorney out to the area. And the state's attorney will travel there, they will be in the area, they will be working alongside the police, they will be personally there to interview the victims. They will be personally there to interview the witnesses. They will be personally there to watch the body cam and the pod cam and the green cam and all of it. They're in there, they're working alongside the police. That doesn't happen in every single case. In lower level gun cases, lower level felonies across the board, that doesn't happen at all. Not just since Eileen O'Neill Burke took over, that has been the way felony review has been run as long as I've known about it. I've been a lawyer for 24 years. I was a state's attorney for roughly 14 years before I left and recently came back. That has never changed. That's the way felony review works. We decided after, when the Cook County State's Attorney was elected, we took office on December 2nd of 2024. When we took office on December 2nd, 2024, one of our major priorities was rebuilding our relationships with law enforcement, and particularly the Chicago Police Department. And so we started having meetings with the command staff of the Chicago Police Department, Superintendent Snelling, and all of his command staff. In the course of those meetings, one of the first things that they wanted to talk to us about is the problems that police were having with felony review. Here is the source of the problem. When there is a violent crime, and it requires an assistant state's attorney to go out to the district, like I just described, that happens. And it happens pretty rapidly because we prioritize those cases on felony review, and we make sure our ASAs get out the door and get to the district so they can talk to witnesses and talk to victims and nail down those cases. In cases like the 3 felony possession or gun possession charges that we're talking about here, we don't do that. Those are what we call phone cases. And that means that a law enforcement officer calls felony review and they say, we have a unlawful possession of weapon by a felon, or we have an aggravated unlawful possession of a weapon, or we have an unlawful possession of a weapon because there's no FOID or no CCL. And those are low-level felonies. They're either a class 4 or class 3, depending on the circumstances of the case, and those are the lower classes, right? So in those circumstances, a felony review ASA is talking to an officer on the phone. The officer is recounting the events as they occurred. The ASA is listening and putting data into the system, and then the ASA will approve that charge over the phone. There's no interviewing witnesses, there's no going to the police station, there's no interviewing the offender, there's none of that. It's a phone call. Those cases are prioritized very, very low in the process because it's important to us that we send our people out to work alongside the police for violent crimes. What happens, and this is an unfortunate inefficiency on our side as state's attorneys, it's even more unfortunate for the police. What happens is that if a police officer makes an arrest for one of 3 felony charges, and I want to emphasize right now for everybody, this is not all felonies, it is not all felony gun cases. It is 3 low-level felonies that are possession cases. That means the individual did not use the gun, there are no victims, it is an unlawful possession. That's it. In those 3 categories of cases, a police officer can routinely wait 6, 8, 10 hours to get a state's attorney on the phone. While they are doing that, they cannot go back on the street and patrol. So going back to our collaboration with Superintendent Snelling and his command staff, Superintendent Snelling's complaint for us was if our officers make one of these low-level gun arrests, they are in the house, not patrolling the street. He always tells me a car is down. For 6 or 8 hours, that is that officer's entire tour of duty. They are not on the street. They are in the house waiting to make a phone call that felony review will answer. On the felony review side of the house, those cases are our very, very last priority because we are out there working on cases that involve victims and witnesses. And it's incredibly important for us to do that and do it expediently because if we don't get our ASAs out there to manage those cases, we are traumatizing our victims because they're sitting in the police station for hours and hours and hours waiting for felony review ASAs to come. Or we're losing our witnesses, which is making it harder and harder and harder for detectives in the areas to actually solve crimes and close cases. I hear your frustration on the fact that community wasn't asked about this process. I will tell you that we came in the door on December 2nd. This was the first complaint that we heard from CPD, and I spent all of December crafting a protocol alongside with my partners in the state's attorney's office and my partners at CPD to create a system where we could get officers back out on the street to answer 911 calls. That was the impetus of the pilot program. That's what we worked hard and fast to achieve. And the goal was not over-policing. The goal was not giving police complete autonomy so they could do whatever they wanted. The goal was making sure that Chicago police officers in areas where 911 calls come in a lot could get back on the street to answer them. That was certainly Superintendent Snelling's goal. It was certainly the state's attorney's goal. I will tell you it was my goal. I spent most of December in the 7th District training Chicago police officers alongside the supervisor and deputy supervisor of our felony review unit on how to implement this pilot program, follow the law, and do it correctly. So I want to just make a couple more points and a couple things clear. First and foremost, felony review bypass does not mean that a prosecutor does not review the case. Felony review bypass is not prosecutor review bypass. It's not that at all. I'm going to explain the process to you so you understand exactly how it happens, but the only difference from what we have always done here is that we do it a little bit later. So one thing I want to make sure that we're all on the same page with is that felony review is something that's very unique to the state of Illinois. And I understand when I hear people say this is a due process problem, this makes me worry that people aren't getting due process. I hear you. I want you to understand that nowhere else in the country, other than Illinois and a couple other states, is there even a thing called felony review. It's not a requirement under the law, and it doesn't impact due process in the way that one would normally think of it. Felony review is specific to Cook County because it was something that was historically implemented. Across the state of Illinois, there are some state's attorney's offices that do felony review, most of them don't. So felony review is not a requirement under the law. For the last 2 decades at least, under every administration in the state's attorney's office for the last 2 decades, felony review has been bypassed in narcotics cases. It still is to this day. It was in the last administration, it was in the administration before. In most narcotics cases, police officers never call felony review. They never have, and that's never been implemented. So while this may seem like a very new thing that's getting imposed upon you, this is something that has gone on in the past in other types of cases, and to the point that was made, I'm sorry, I wrote that down your name because you were so wonderful in your education, Miss Victoria. To the point that was made, that was not always a great idea. So I'm gonna tell you the things that we've done to be careful. I think that was the word that Miss Victoria used, and she's ready. Can I keep explaining?
Go ahead.
Yeah, just for a few more minutes, because we're at time, so we're at 1:15 right now. We have these public-
Well, I think, okay, so I'll talk,
We're doing good.
I'm gonna talk a lot faster.
Okay, no,
I need to be clear and understand.
Yeah.
yes,
So let me tell you the things that we did to be careful. We created a protocol for how felony review bypass was gonna work in the 7th district. And just so we all know, the 7th district was chosen through collaboration with the Chicago Police Department because Chicago Police Department believed that the 7th district would be a district that had a really strong commander. So congratulations to you, Commander Courts. Had a really strong commander that would actually make sure that the bypass protocol was followed to the letter. That was one of the reasons for the decision. The other reason for the decision is that because there are, unfortunately, a lot of gun cases in the 7th district, cars are down in the 7th district a lot, waiting for felony review. When that decision was made, we put together a protocol. The protocol said this. Number 1, it was only gonna apply to 3 charges. Number 2, it couldn't apply in any case where the body-worn camera was not on during the event. The third thing is it could not apply unless it was a clear-cut case of possession. So I'm gonna give you an example that I gave police officers when I was training. If you have 4 individuals in a car and the gun is somewhere on the floor bouncing around the car, that's not a bypass case because you don't know who actually possessed that weapon. And you have to do a lot more investigation, and that involves a state's attorney having to review it. If it's a case where there's a stop and it's one person who has a gun in their pocket unlawfully, that's a clear-cut case, and if it's on body camera, it can go through bypass. So we put in a bunch of restrictions of what that would look like. Then we decided that we had to train. So initially, I trained the entire command staff in the 7th district. After I trained the command staff, the head of felony review, along with her deputy, along with me, went to the 7th district for every single roll call. I was actually there on New Year's Eve, and my family was waiting for me to get done so we could go to dinner. We trained every single roll call before January 1st. And in that training, we taught officers about the 3 charges. We taught them about the elements of the offense. We refreshed their prior training on what's an appropriate 4th Amendment stop, what's an appropriate seizure. We gave them scenarios and examples of what would be a proper bypass case and what wouldn't be a proper bypass case. And we told them again and again and again and again, if you have a question about anything, call felony review. We took that so seriously that we actually made the people who are on felony review right now, the ASAs assigned to felony review, they were required to go to the training too. So when I walked into felony review bypass training in the 7th district, 12 different times in the month of December, every time I saw some assistant state's attorneys in the room getting trained alongside the Chicago police officers, so that not only did the police know what was appropriate and required of them, but our ASAs knew that if a 7th district officer called and said, I have a question about a gun case, I wanna make sure this is clear for bypass, they can do that. Here's what happens when an officer decides to do a bypass. Once that officer makes that decision, they are required to tender their reports and their body cam to the watch operations lieutenant in the district. The watch operations lieutenant reviews the reports, reviews the body cam, and makes sure that under their estimation, that case is appropriate for bypass. Bypass, again, does not mean that no state's attorney reviews this case until someone goes to jail. Here's what happens next. Unless if a person is getting a cite and release where they don't have to go to first appearance court, once that case goes to first appearance court, that's the first time a prosecutor touches it. That's usually within 24 hours, it has to be within 48. An ASA in first appearance court will take a look at the police reports, they will review them. They have to, because they have to make a presentation to the judge. If that ASA sees nothing wrong, that case then advances for either a preliminary hearing or an indictment. Preliminary hearing or indictment is this next step in the legal process that permits you to do formal charging. When a case goes to a preliminary hearing courtroom, and from the 7th district it'll go to branch 38, an ASA in the preliminary hearing courtroom will review the body cam, they will review the police report, and they will make sure that it is appropriate to present that case to a judge. A judge will then hear testimony from a police officer, and it is only then that that case is formally charged. So, again, police are not calling felony review the minute they get someone in custody, but within 48 hours at a max, an ASA is reviewing that case, and then it's getting reviewed again prior to it ever going in front of a judge for a preliminary hearing. If it gets indicted instead of going for a preliminary hearing, all of that evidence in that case is going to be presented to the Cook County grand jury by the state's attorney who has reviewed the case and has made a determination that it's appropriate for indictment before formal charges are ever filed. That's how the process works. So far, there have only been 46 cases that have gone through from the 7th district. That might seem like a big number. I actually feel like that number demonstrates success because that number tells me that police officers aren't putting any case they want through bypass. They're being discriminate in making that decision. Out of those 46 cases, about 30 of them have reached the point where they have either had a preliminary hearing or an indictment. All 30 of them have survived the judicial scrutiny of a judge at prelim and or the scrutiny of the grand jury at indictment. We are tracking each of those cases. I check the tracker every single day. I have a conversation with the chief of patrol about the information on the tracker almost every single day. And we are also tracking if those cases result in motion practice, which means someone's making an allegation that they were wrongfully arrested or wrongfully charged. We're tracking that. And then we will track those cases through to disposition. So are they getting thrown out by the court? Are they getting, are there convictions? Are there not? The reason why we're doing all that tracking is because this is a pilot and we need to figure out if it's working or it's not working. In the first 3 months, we have no reason to believe that it is not working appropriately because thus far, when these cases are reviewed, the body cam footage demonstrates that the officer's police report is consistent and it's appropriate for charging. That was the impetus for expanding the pilot program. So I hope that's a good overview for all of you of the process. I know I talked a long time, but it's a long process. I will say, again, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to answer any of your questions. I know you have a lot of questions about RJCCs. I don't have time to answer them now, but please invite me back and I'll be glad to do that as well.
Can you touch on it a minute? Why the restorative justice court is gone? Can you touch on that for a second?
It's up to you guys.
Yes,
I'm
please.
happy to talk about it.
Please, just touch on it for a second. Why you got it? That's why we
Sure. So we didn't get rid of the restorative justice courtrooms. That's actually not accurate. They're not gone. What we did is we decided we weren't going to put gun cases in the restorative justice courtrooms because restorative justice courtrooms employ a peace circle victim-centric model. And the gun cases that were going in the restorative justice programs don't involve victims. It was our goal to stop flooding those courtrooms with gun cases because we wanted to bring cases in there that actually involve victims. It appropriately fits the model. We are working now to expand the restorative justice programs by increasing the geography and the age limit of the people who can go in there so we can put more victim-centered crimes into the restorative justice programs. We also advanced legislation in Springfield that would help individuals who are first-time gun offenders who are appropriate for the RJCCs to make sure that when if they get arrested as a first-time gun offender and they go into a first-time offenders program, that they could actually apply for their FOID card while they're in that program. So when they get out of the program, they have their FOID card in their hand and they don't run risk of reoffending. I'm super excited to tell you that in the last 2 weeks, I have driven back and forth to Springfield twice to testify on that legislation, and it has passed the House committee, it's passed the Senate committee. So the goal is that once that legislation passes, instead of individuals going to the RJCCs, which cover certain communities in the city of Chicago, there's one in the suburbs, that will be a program that is expansive across the state, and we can divert individuals who possess gun cases into restorative justice programs that will assist them in learning about gun safety and obtaining their FOID card with the legislation that's gonna pass next week in Springfield. We have additional ideas on how we can make our JCCs more expansive. Like felony review isn't a one-size-fits-all. We don't want the RJCCs to be one-size-fits-all. And it's our opinion that there should be restorative justice for individuals who are charged with gun crimes, but there should be different models based on the type of crime. I understand that the RJCC recidivism rates are very low, and I'm really happy to see that. But it was our estimation that we were not putting people in those RJCCs who were truly committing victim crimes and getting that kind of support from the community. If we are able to modify the RJCC program, we can put more first-time gun offenders in the RJCCs. They can still get their wraparound services and all the things that the RJCCs offer, but they will, once this legislation is passed, they will leave the RJCC program, hopefully with their FOID card in their hand, so they never come back into the system, and that's the goal.
You said you could do
And you, right, so I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Cecile.
You don't have to stop anything to wait for something else to start. You can do both. The cases shouldn't be stopped.
So I hear you, and I'll tell you that the reason why we stopped putting the gun cases in there, recognizing that you're right, we can do both, but the reason we stopped putting them in there is because we needed to do an internal assessment of other types of cases that could more appropriately go into the RJCCs. We have 27 restorative justice programs that are run through Cook County and through the state's attorney's office at this time. We walked into the office on December 2nd. I'm still learning what all 27 of them are. I'm looking at Anthony over there, who is my friend, who will attest that I do work 20 of the 24 hours of the day. I'm not quite there yet, but we're trying. We are not a state's attorney's office that is turning their back on restorative justice. In fact, we're trying to pass legislation to make it more impactful, and we believe in it, but we're 3 and some change months in, and we're still learning. And we're still learning community engagement. So I appreciate being here with all of you today. hopefully we'll get the hang of that and do a better job going forward. And, you know, I appreciate your patience with us as we do it.
Thank you so much.
I didn't even look at it.
I'm going to be really brief, and then I'm going to pass it back over to our chair to open it up for public comments. And she will explain that as public comments going to be 2 minutes per person. With that being said, I'm sorry?
It's always like that.
Yeah. With that being said, for our chief of policy over at the state's attorney's office, Ms. Yvette. Ms. Yvette, I'm sorry, yeah, so I just got a quick one for you real quick.
sorry, yeah.
No, it's okay. So with this new pilot program, you've seen it so far be successful. Do you not think that this pilot program needs a third-party oversight?
So, there's never been third-party oversight over any interaction with the Chicago Police Department in felony review. And so that would be a new concept for us. We don't have a consent decree like the Chicago Police Department, so we don't have third-party oversight over our work. And again, if this were a situation where there was no prosecutorial review, I think we'd be in a different set of circumstances. But this is prosecutorial review at a different stage in the process.
Okay. And then our last one was just those stipulations and some of those gray areas that you talked about, far as I know you talked about if the body camera is not on, then obviously that's not something that
They can't go through
they can't go through bypass. And then there's probably some other things. Is there a way to retrieve that or get that information out to the public so people actually know exactly what is it that kind of counts if you won't be able to bypass a lot? Because that's stuff that we still trying to figure out and don't really know the answer to that.
Sure. So we have a written protocol. It's FOIA-able. FOIA it. I'm happy to put it out there. At some point, I think we will be putting these things on our website. Our website is still getting put together. But other people have FOIA'd the protocol and we've sent it out, so you're most welcome to do that and you will get it.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you for that. All right, so now we're gonna start our public comments section.
You guys are done with me? I can.
We're done with you. Thank you.
Stick around for a few minutes.
Yeah, just stick around, those who can. Patricia Williams, can you come up, please? You will have exactly 2 minutes,
Live, uncut, unedited.
and you can use this microphone.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, how are you?
My question is, why our district, and also who authorized it to be in our district? Because our district, you know, it ain't so much as the program, but we worried about our black and brown men. If the police gonna stop them, is they gonna be fair, is they not gonna be fair? Yeah, you got cameras, but some of them know how to turn the cameras off. We ain't against police, but we against brutality, we against them wrongfully convicting them, and it's been going on for years. You know, I lived in Englewood all my life. I was born and raised in Englewood and on the low end, and I know how Chicago works. I'm like 62 years old today. You know, I've been stopped by the police. My son got autism, and when he gets stopped by the police, I have to tell him, just don't get smart with him. Let him know you got autism. You know, and he got stopped many times around here. I said, but, you know, let him know you just going to the store. But, you know, he's scared. He stay in the house because things be happening in our neighborhoods. We ain't calling all police bad because we need them, but still, it's just time for us to get a grip on treating men, you know, our black and brown men like they just not nothing. There's got to be better programs than just stopping and frisking and putting felony charges on them. It's got to be something that will help them to go further. You know, because people do things because they feel like they don't have no choice to do things, to stick up, to rob, to do this and other, because they feel like they don't have no outlet, nowhere to go. So yes, we are concerned about our Englewood. We are concerned about our young men in Englewood. We are concerned about men all over, period, in Chicago, but you know, when y'all spring something on us before we know anything about it, At least we could have had a say-so, at least we could have voted on it, at least we could have had a better understanding. And maybe some of us perhaps wouldn't have came here angry, because I was angry when I first came here. I was really angry because I didn't know what it was about. And I know I got a son and I got grandsons. And I got a bunch of nieces and nephews, boys, a bunch of boys, you know, in my family. So I'm very, very concerned about this.
Thank you. Next, we're gonna call Brenda Watson. When you come up, please state your name. Brenda Watson. Is your last call? No? Gabriel Miller.
Hi everyone, my name is Gabriel Miller. I'm a member of the Chicago Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression. I'm a member of the 14th District, and we're actually having our district council meeting today as well, but I wanted to be here to represent our organization because, as you know, any pilot program has the potential to affect all of Chicago, and in this case, all of Cook County. I think it's really important to establish the history that the state's attorney's office and the police department in Chicago have with our communities. And I'm wondering if you, Commander, are aware that Chicago is the police torture and wrongful conviction capital of the United States. Did you know that?
That's not for you to direct to him. You got comments,
It's not a Q&A.
Okay. So Chicago is the wrongful conviction capital of the United States, and that's because of a web of corruption that stems from CPD to the state's attorney's office, where we have state's attorneys who were married to members of CPD, detectives who have dozens of cases of wrongful conviction in post-conviction proceedings, people who are fighting tooth and nail to get out of prison from having been wrongful convicted by officers that are still on the force. And so when we have a state's attorney's office that ran on reversing, Eileen Burke ran on reversing everything that Kim Foxx had done to free people. And she got started by dropping the charges on Patrick O'Donnell, someone who beat up an Arab youth in Oak Lawn. So we know what this state's attorney's office is trying to do, and when they come in and bypass the directly elected body that was created so that the communities could hold the police accountable, so the communities could have a say, we know that that's not right. And we know that this is an opportunity for us to engage with these structures, fight back, and make sure that our voices are heard. We're here to say all power to the people, and we got to keep fighting to hold the police accountable. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment. Next, we'll have Jermaine Kelly. Jermaine Kelly.
Yeah, I am. How y'all beautiful people doing today?
All is well.
How y'all doing? My name is Jermaine Kelly. I'm a 6th Ward resident. I'm also with the organization MAD, Mothers and Men Against Senseless Killings. I think a couple things. One, I think this legislation is very dangerous for both parties. Even for y'all that's out there to protect and serve us. When people feel like their due process is going to be bypassed, they're going to react in a very harsher way. So the normal interaction goes from here to here, and we want to better police engagement. We engage, at least on our corner, we engage with the police officers that engage with us. So it's not that our area has lack of engagement with y'all. I just think when we hear things like this does more harm than it does good for us all together. And listening to you explain it seems more like an inside problem than our problem.
Yes.
It seems like y'all need to do some more hiring for the people that's gonna handle those calls on the smaller level. As you said, they get pushed down. Somebody needs to be hired to check those ones that get pushed down. Because that's 40 families that are victimless crimes that was affected by that. So that means that's just 40 possessions.
There we go.
So that means their family was impacted. And like y'all said so eloquently, if you spend one day in jail, your whole life can be changed.
Come on, man. That's right.
So with that being said, that's all I gotta say, and I really think y'all need to reserve this, and y'all need to put gun crimes back in restorative justice. I called a gun charge very early in my life, and I wish a program like restorative justice was around. My whole life probably would have been different.
Come on.
So respectfully, I end my time, and thank y'all all for coming out, and I love to see everybody in the community that's worried about what's going on in our community. And I come up here as one of the young folks to show y'all, even the older generation, that we can. That's right.
Thank you for that. Now I'm gonna call Mark Wallace. Please state your name. You have 2 minutes.
My name is Mark Wallace. I'm the Executive Director of Citizens to Abolish Red Light Cameras and 10 by 10 to Win. I'm also the host of the podcast, The People Show, formerly on WVON, 1690 AM. I fundamentally reject this premise. And I listened to the person who represents the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, and as a trained lawyer, come on, Mark, we are taught to leave information out that we don't want brought up. So I'm going to put information in that was not put in. Even though felony review might not be legislatively by law, it is legislated that a state's attorney is the only person who can charge a person with a felony in the state of Illinois. That information was left out. So, elections have serious consequences. We elected the wrong person. Now, let me just say, this is the person that we have to deal with. This policy was rolled out as soon as this person was elected. It was put out in an innocuous newspaper. I have spoken to 3 Cook County judges, several attorneys, black attorneys. None of them knew about this policy. There has been no conversation with the oldest black Cook County Bar Association in Illinois that's more than 100 years old. Not a single phone call made to them about this policy. Process is important. We should never, ever compromise a person's due process for the convenience of efficiency. Under any circumstance. And any of our representatives that support this policy, we are going to track them, we're going to trace them, and we are going to replace them if they are on board with violating due process of the people of our communities and using our communities as a guinea pig.
Thank you, sir, for that. Next person we're gonna call up is Andy Williams. Please state your name.
My name's Andy Hood, candidate Williams Jr. I sure wish I had more time to teach. So I'm gonna drop it like this. I'm running for Illinois Attorney General. And I'm gonna tell you what Rule 3.8 is. This is beautiful. The state's attorney in his or her official capacity is a representative of all the people, including the defendant. And it is much as his or her duty to safeguard the constitutionally protected rights of the defendant as those as any other citizen. We are the people. We have the power. We never did this. I can't wait to talk to the attorney brother. One thing I'm gonna tell you is I'm what they label as a felon. So if you run up in my house trying to rob me, kidnap my granddaughter, rape my wife, I got the chance of going to jail because I'm gonna pop your ass. That's true, but I'm gonna go to jail for that. The Constitution, the Illinois Constitution, Section 22, says the people have the right to bear arms. You not finna get away with locking somebody up when there's never been an injured party. That's the Illinois Constitution that limits the government. That's what the Illinois Constitution do. And I ain't gonna take my whole time because I'm gonna tell you this. March 2024, I filed a lawsuit against Kim Fox. I was able to substitute Eileen Burke for Kim Fox April 3rd, 2025. They ducking service, because see, I done sued them. I'm not running around here asking y'all to do what's right. I'm gonna get a remedy for infringing and depriving me of my rights. That's the difference. And when we get educated about our rights don't come from government, the Constitution limits government from infringing upon our rights. So these policies ain't no difference in the slave patrol or slave catcher. They got us locked up in our own community, asking permission, can we go outside? Can we protect ourselves? If you shoot somebody, you need to get corrected. But if I'm trying to hold the protection of my life, as Q would say, I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. Come on with it, y'all. We gotta do better. We gotta do better. And the last thing, they got a bill called State's Attorney Recall. Let's get on it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. Now we're gonna call Andy Williams Jr. That was you, right?
Oh, no, I get 2 points.
You have 2 forms. We have Jasmine Smith. Oh, we're gonna wait. Jasmine Smith? Yes. Come on up here. 2 forms in here trying to be slick.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am activist Jasmine Smith with Chicago Alliance Against Racism and Political Repression. I just want to make it clear because I got into this field 2.5 years ago because 2 of my loved ones has been wrongfully convicted by one of the highest paid sergeants on the force, Brian P. Forberg. Now, due to me being a part of this organization, we fought, organized, vote to court support and stuff like that, and exposing this sergeant. So when we talk about a program like this, and the history of building up of how police cannot be trusted, and police cannot be trusted because they're never being held accountable for their misconduct. Now, not only is this sergeant and his partners the cause of my loved ones being kidnapped for 14.5 years to 17.5 years, but they still on the force. You got Commander John Foster that's on the force in Area 5 right now. The cause of not only my 2 loved ones, but 25 wrongfully convicted men and women. One of the longest survivors is sitting in this room right now, 23 years and 4 months, and due to the organization and his lawyers fighting against this corrupt system, is how he got his freedom. And not only the cops and the state's attorneys, Forberg was married to a state's attorney. John Foster was married to a state's attorney that touched these cases and why they wrongfully convicted. Not only that, the judge denied that man so many times to get his freedom. The judges are part of a corrupt system as well. So when we talk about trying to make changes, y'all left the community out. Number one, she ran on a Democratic ticket, whole time she's a Republican. So they tricked the Illinois citizens because we're a Democratic city. So y'all voted her in not knowing her background and how she tried to wrongfully wrongfully convict an 11-year-old child. There's no due process. There has never been due process when it came to black communities. We gotta do better.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, next we're gonna call, we only have a couple more, is Antonio Daggett. Antonio? Is that a Colonel?
Yes.
Colonel Antonio Daggett, okay, sorry about that.
Very quickly, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Colonel Antonio Daggett. I'm a retired United States Army Colonel. 36 years of defending this nation, and Englewood is in this nation. So my defense of this nation is the defense of Englewood as well. The process of circumventing the charging at the attorney at the state's attorney's level should not take place. Very simply, that should not take place. Due process is explicit and implicit. There's implicit due process in systems as well. And we expect those things to take place as in the case of any other community in this city. Now, I'm a West Sider from the Austin area, from the Garfield area. What happens in Englewood is only a matter of time before he hits the West Side. So I can wait till he comes to my door and deal with it, or I can come out to Englewood and say, we need to deal with it before we get to my door. We have to be more proactive in this. Let me also say this. In the course of the 42 years of our marriage, my wife has given birth to our 10 children. We have 8 boys and 2 girls. Stand up, sister. Stand up, sweetheart. Let me show you what a strong black woman looks like. We married 8 black men on the west side of Chicago. We cannot do that without each other. So I say to us, we gotta stand up. We can't say Black Lives Matter and then walk off and leave our black children, brothers. We know how the system is. Why in the world would I walk off and leave my black sons for my wife to raise them children on her own and expect them to not wind up in the system?
Time's up. Thank you so much. Thank you. The next person we're gonna have, let's have 2 more, Lynette Coleman. Lynette Coleman. Thank you. And, after that, we're gonna have Patricia and they're coming together. What, okay, who's in there? Coleman. Oh, Lanita? Okay, Lanita, come on, you come with us.
Hi. I might get a little nervous, but I just want to touch, I'm Lanita Coleman. I want to tell a little bit about my sister's story. She was attacked in her car in front of her house. She is concealed to carry. The young ladies beat her to the point she couldn't see out her eyes. She's been sitting in jail since January. Case been getting thrown every which way but the right way. She did shoot the girl in self-defense, and she's sitting in jail, and I'm just trying to understand why is she still sitting in jail. She never was asked her part of the story, and no body cam or nothing was shown. The judge didn't try to hear anything about my sister. And it makes me scared, you know, to defend myself if it was me. I'm concealed to carry. You know, so what is the point of being concealed to carry if you can't defend yourself? Like the man said, in your own home. She was in her car and got attacked. Like, make this stuff make sense. It's not making sense at all. She got 2 kids that she been away from. My niece is finna graduate. She missing all her events and everything.
Thank you. Thank you, Renetta. Thank you all for your time. Our last one is gonna be from Patricia. She didn't write her last name. Is there Patricia?
That was me, I said up there.
Oh, you know, all these people doing 2, okay? Right.
Somebody else at that time?
All right, everyone. With that being said, you guys, we are at our time. We just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight, and or today, rather. And with